Banjo Kazooie. Just take a minute to appreciate the attention to detail taken in this first room alone. The game was originally released in 1998 on the Nintendo 64. Play as a bear who runs around with a bird in his backpack. I don't really get it either, but it works. Main storyline consists of Banjo the bear's sister being kidnapped by the evil witch Gruntilda, who has become an old fat fuck and intends on stealing Banjo's sister's youth and beauty for herself. The game consists of 9 open-ended levels plus Gruntilda's lair, which is an open-ended level in and of itself. Your health bar is represented by honeycombs, which can be upgraded by collecting hollow honeycombs. Huge variety of attacks and moves to learn throughout the game, which can be a bit daunting for newcomers, as the control scheme is somewhat complex. The game itself can be a bit daunting to newcomers and those who weren't used to the games of this generation and this era in general, and their lack of hand-holding. There's no map, there's no compass, there's no guide points. You need to explore and find your own way throughout the game, and that's part of its magic. Another part of its magic is unforgettable characters like this asshole here. Each level consists of challenges and puzzles that need to be completed to collect puzzle pieces that are needed to unlock further levels. You also need to collect music notes scattered throughout the levels to unlock doors throughout Gruntilda's lair, which will in turn unlock access to new levels. It's truly one of the greatest games of its time. There were very few fully realized immersive 3D worlds on a level like this. These graphics and the work that went into this game for its time, truly legendary, and it still stands up very well today. The partnership between Nintendo and Rare in the 90s is one of the greatest partnerships in the history of gaming. It all starts back on the Super Nintendo, looking at the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, some of the best games on that console. And then you move on to the Nintendo 64, and Rare was the best developer on the console aside from Nintendo themselves. And that speaks volumes right there. Quick list of a few games Rare released on the Nintendo 64. Obviously Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie, Jet Force Gemini, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Perfect Dark, and not to mention the all-time classic that is GoldenEye. The game that revolutionized first-person shooters on home consoles. And in some ways revolutionized how we look at home consoles in general. The Nintendo 64, with games like GoldenEye, Super Smash Bros., Mario Party, just to name a few, brought the games out of the basement into the living room and made it more of an event than it had ever been beforehand, in the home setting at least. So you can thank the Nintendo 64 for that, among other things. The variety of these environments is just astounding. This game holds up so well, so much better than a lot of its counterparts from the time. Variety of temporary power-ups ranging from boots, as you can see here, to help traverse treacherous landscapes like this swamp or quicksand, to name a couple. There's also speed shoes to help get through time challenges. There's the speed shoes there. In some ways, it's sad going back and playing some of the best games from Rare's heyday, because you stop and think about where they're at now after being bought out by Microsoft. They developed so many phenomenal, legendary games that hold up extremely well today when they were working with Nintendo. And then you look at what they've done since they were bought out by Microsoft. The only notable thing they've released over the last 14 years or so has been the remastered Conker's Bad Fur Day, Conker Live and Reloaded, as it was called on the original Xbox. That is the only notable thing they've done in the last 14 years or so. And it's truly tragic. One of the greatest tragedies, one of the greatest downfalls of a company in gaming history. This was one of the best in the industry, and their fall from grace was not pretty. What are they doing now? Connect fucking Sports. Are you fucking kidding me? One of the best companies in the history of the industry. Microsoft has them putting out Connect fucking Sports. For fuck's sake. And even Conker Live and Reloaded was just a remake of a game that they had done a few years prior. So they haven't put out one single standout title since they were bought out by Microsoft. One original title that stands out. There hasn't been one. Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts was enjoyable. Initially, I despised it. I hated what they did to the franchise, and I still do in a way. But if you take off the nostalgia goggles and appreciate it for what it is, it can be enjoyable. After revisiting it years later, I do enjoy it a little more than I originally did upon my first playthrough. But it's still nothing compared to the originals on the Nintendo 64. As I said before, the variety of these environments. As far as the remake goes, controls are improved, camera controls vastly improved, textures pop, colors are much more vibrant than they were on the Nintendo 64. Camera control to me is the biggest standout improvement. It was an amazing game then, and it's a fantastic game now. It holds up very well. Just look at these environments. One of the greatest adventures in the history of games. Not to mention the fact that you can shit eggs out of your ass. That's priceless.